Hello and welcome to Inside Out, a program where we look at issues affecting society and issues of public interest. And today we are looking at the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, the national broadcaster, a media organization which has been in the eye of the media for quite a long time. Now, media has been particularly interested in the national broadcaster for various reasons, issues to do with performance, coverage of political parties, and sexual harassment issues, among other issues. Now, to help us with these issues and to look at what really is happening at the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, we have the lady who is at the helm of the organization, the Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Adelaide Chikunguru. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Inside Out.
Morning, Yvonne, and thank you for having me.
It is always a pleasure. Now, I remember the last time that we had you on this show, you had just joined the corporation as the CEO, and a lot of things were happening. Social media was saying a lot of things, and, it was quite a time for you. How has it been?
Still a time for me.
Really?
Still a time for me.
Okay, tell me about it.
Yeah, well, look, in terms of the work itself, it's been the most rewarding time of my life.
Okay.
I came to the ZBC, obviously pushing the transformational agenda for the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation. And I must say we've been doing pretty well.
Okay.
We've been doing pretty well. But in terms of, the social media space and the reputation conversation, it was going on well for a while until, we started having, both internal and external push factors. And it has kind of impacted our reputation in a bit, and it's something that we are working to correct as well.
All right. I think we'll get into those push factors a little later on.
Absolutely.
But now we just want to look at the performance of the national broadcaster, looking at corporate governance, structural viability, and things like that. How has it been?
We've been doing very well, Yvonne.
Okay.
We're compliant with the corporate governance unit requirements. We are compliant with PRAS, and so we're doing very, very well in that regard.
Okay, so how far have you gone with corporate governance on its own?
Yes, I know it's an interesting question because coming in, obviously, we had a lot of governance issues with prior administrators. These are currently, as you know, at court, and we can't really discuss them because that would be sub judice. But in terms of getting the policies into place, the systems into place, we've done extremely well. We are 100% compliant at the moment. In terms of CGU requirements, we are 100% compliant.
What of structural challenges, viability challenges?
Of course, we've got, currently when I came in, we did have, some viability challenges, but I must say those have been addressed to a large extent.
Which ones are those ones?
Yes, I'll talk to that, Yvonne.
Okay.
We had cash flow issues coming in, obviously. You'd understand then that workers had gone for 3 months without salary when I came in. But we're now able to pay our workers on a monthly basis.
Okay.
We are running our operational costs. We are even purchasing capex. You will know that towards the elections, there was a requirement for about 33 billion for ZBC to be able to be capacitated to run elections. And most of that money was funded by ZBC itself. So ZBC was able to capacitate itself. We did get grant financing from government, but 3/4 of the finance that came towards elections was funded through the ZBC. They did fund their own activities. ZBC also managed to purchase its own vehicles towards elections and towards operations, and all the other capital requirements that go with such activities. So I would say we're doing pretty well. We ended 2022 in a surplus, something that has never happened at ZBC for over 20 years. We are looking to sit for our first AGM ever in the next month in November, and we are hoping to declare a dividend in that AGM. So I would say we've made a lot of progress, as you can see. We obviously from Another governance issue was the audited situation at the ZBC. I must say that we now very close to being current. We started auditing books from 2016 to bring them to date for the board to be able to have an AGM. And we've been working very closely with the Auditor General's office, and we are rounding up that exercise. So we've been, it's been very hard, obviously, to get all these administrative issues in place, but in the shortest possible of times, we've been able to do it. And I must say, for the first time in 20 years, ZBC will be having an AGM, something that has never happened. And also, for the first time in 20 years, ZBC will be declaring a dividend profit to government of Zimbabwe, And although we have obviously declared the social dividend through, how we covered the elections, funding 3/4 of the election exercise, and so forth and so on. Obviously, it has taken. It's hard. You'd understand even from where you sit. It's been hard. It's gruesome. It's not an easy conversation, and a lot of people will ask, "How do you do it? How is it?"
And on that note, several articles that I've read about you in different publications, you are always being labeled as this lady, this CEO who rules with an iron fist. Why do you think they have that perception?
I do.
Okay.
I actually do rule with an iron fist.
What does that mean?
We got a Margaret Thatcher iron fist. Just call the iron lady.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But you have to. You have to. I don't even know what it means, but I'll always take it positively and say, maybe I'm getting something right. We need discipline in the work environment. We need ethics in the work environment. We need responsible teams. We need to create a workspace where people are happy to come to work and they spend their time at work, being engaged at work, and they go home and feel that, they've put in their day's dues and they will also get paid for their day's dues. But like ZBC right now, we are covering our own operational expenditure, our own staff costs and so forth and so on. And it has to come from somewhere. All those increments we've been giving over the years, it's coming from somewhere, from us, our work, right? And so you have to be tough. And I am tough. I'm tough, Yvonne. I'm tough. So there are no apologies about it.
Okay,
I
fine.
am tough.
So
you have to
on
be.
you being tough and what you've just said,
Yeah.
maybe some of these things come from a matter of misconception. Maybe people don't really know you or understand
They don't have to.
how you work.
Yes.
Okay, fine. For the purposes of them trying to understand you just a little bit, maybe your management style, if you can talk to us about that. And again, I'll keep referring to the stuff that I've read. The recent article that I read mentioned you coming up with what they called a shambolic grading system.
I don't think the Patterson system is shambolic. It's actually effective than what was there. What was there was shambolic. And it's true. What was there was shambolic because employees had gone for years without being graded, without getting promotions, without being rewarded for their work. And then we came in with a grading system that works, that rewards employees. People are in the same grade. Remember when we came in, we had people in the same grade, some doing the very same roles, some being graded higher, but everybody is doing the same work, doing the same roles. And this has equalized. Right, and so we've done that, and we are happy about it. And I've never had complaints. I've never had anyone come and say, "Oh, I'm not happy with the Patterson grading system." It hasn't. Employees have actually come and they're quite happy.
So they're happy with it.
Yes, they are. Yes, absolutely.
All right. So having talked about that, let's look at.
We're having effective assessments as well. I'm sure everyone is getting assessed where they are and where opportunities. I was on LinkedIn the other day congratulating one of the engineers, 2-3 that had been promoted. This is how a system should work.
All right. Now, having said that, let's look at the national broadcaster and its mandate. The ZBC is always being accused of not living up to its mandate as a public broadcaster. You are accused of favoring the ruling party. And now people say, you know what, the ZBC does not stand by what it is supposed to do. And now advertisers are shunning it because it favors ZANU-PF, in the words of those who speak.
I don't think it's true. If you look in the past elections that we just held, it was the very first time that opposition was given so much airtime on national television and or radio. Sometimes they were even declining to come. I mean, it's there, it's covered in reports and it's known, it's not a secret. And I will continue to stand by it. I think our our teams we've not favored any political party for that matter. We've given, have you not seen the CCC on national TV? Have you not seen them on ZBC giving interviews? Were they not invited to the manifesto to air their manifestos?
But maybe the argument is when they're covered, how are they covered?
No, they're actually covered pretty well. Yeah, we've been without bias whatsoever. But I think also, Yvonne, again, you know, some of these attacks are coming from, you know, it's more of a political conversation where, you know, some parties might want to, and I know you're probably speaking to maybe some of the reports that came out from observer missions and so forth and so on, but you'd understand that some parties would always want a reason for why they lost an election. We lost an election because we were not covered by ZBC. We lost an election because this and that, you know, and there will always be those. And you can't really get into that because then you're getting yourself into a lot of problems.
All right. So you are categorically stating that the national broadcaster is living up to its mandate.
Absolutely. We are educating, we are entertaining, we are informing, we are doing that every 30 minutes. We are producing news, new bulletins. I think we are the biggest content producer in Zimbabwe right now. And we are doing exactly what our mandate says we should do: educate, inform, and entertain.
And the same applies to political parties.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So how then are you balancing the politics and resource mobilization?
We are more we concentrate more on our core business, which is obviously we need to finance the content, and the content should not be all political. You know, there's other content, entertainment, for example, information, infotainment, and other things. So the content itself should not be all. We tend to think that ZBC is political. No. That's not what it is. You'd understand that also we've just recently launched, I think in early 2022, April, at the ZITF, we launched Jive, which is an entertainment channel, right? So you can see that we are launching new channels as we should, you know, progressing as we should, coming up with new, you know, in terms of business development and innovation. We're coming up with new channels, new content. We are about to launch News 24. Maybe that can address your political conversation.
But I mean, there must be a reason why the ZBC is deemed as political.
I don't think so, Yvonne. We also talk to the way I get attacked in the public space. You know, I don't think that even when you have read it, do you believe all those things working here, understanding where you work, Yvonne? You know, so it's again, for me, it's some political conversation and having a go always, you know, at ZBC for no reason. The other time we were having, maybe I won't talk about it now, you know, where we were having some of our staff members, innocent people, in the press being accused of doing things they had not done, right? I myself have been in the press being accused of things I have not done.
You're always in the
I'm
press.
always in the press, being accused of things I was in the press from the first day I came. I was on social media. The very first, before I even started at ZBC, I was already in the press. You know that. I was already in the press. And I was working for another organization, and they were shocked. You know, how are you talking about ZBC? And, you know, I had not even resigned yet.
So this was sort of exposing, oh, she's now leaving us. She's
yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then you wake up, you find it in the social media before your contract is even signed.
That's social media for you. But anyway, now you mentioned that, you know, we've launched Jive and we're launching our news channel and we have a whole lot of channels coming up. And looking at the media space, a lot of licenses have been issued to a number of broadcasters with the likes of 3K, NRTV, ZTN. You know, the media space is sort of coming up now. So we have all these people fighting for the cake, and there you are as the national broadcaster. How are you withstanding this competition, and what do you think you have in place to remain relevant?
I think, Yvonne, we have, to an extent, you know, we've got our strategy in place. You know, it's a good strategy which has shown us good turnaround in terms of efforts. We're launching new channels, like you're saying. So, you know, there are new channels that are being launched. We're also launching our own new channels. We are innovating in the media space. We are going into digital. I don't want to talk too much to my strategy because the competitors might be listening.
Okay.
But we do have quite a lot of activities in the bag in terms of innovation. And I think next year is going to be a very exciting year. But but, and I'll put a but.
Okay.
There's really need for government, I would think, to come up with a policy that develops art from a grassroots level.
Okay.
You'll understand that we went through a COVID period. It sounds like a song because I'm always talking to this fact, because you can't talk to channels without content. And normally with the value chain, you want to start with content development. Content development needs funding. Right. In countries like Zimbabwe, which are still developing, we are still going to need to be putting grant finance into content development. Therefore, there is need for us to actually fund the artists. Artists struggled during COVID. Most of them had to sell their cameras and things like that to survive. No one was having shows in terms of musicians. And so we need to start there. We need to put money to fund the content, to fund the arts sector, so that now the content can then come onto the channels and we have better and improved and vibrant content. And so this is always a very passionate area for me.
All right. And do you think the relevant stakeholders maybe are doing what they're supposed to be doing in making sure that that is done?
I don't think we've lobbied enough.
Okay.
Right. I think, you know, the artists themselves are kind of tired. And, you know, there's not been enough lobbying. And I think, you know, if you go to conferences, all the conferences are business conferences. There's nothing on content. We don't have anything on content buying. We don't have anything on content developing. And yet, development, and yet that's a major sector. If you go to Hollywood, that's billions of money. If you go to Bollywood, the same. Nollywood, the same. It's producing serious money for actors in Nigeria, in Ghana, and everywhere. But here, and even in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. But here in Zimbabwe, we're still far back. And we've gone backwards, you know, because sometimes, you know, we're having to return certain content to independent producers because it's not meeting the grade. And then at the same time, we have to capacitate ZBC to be able to develop the kind of content that we want in terms of, you know, I know people now are into reality TV in terms of entertainment. That's one of our mandate. And so these are the areas that we should be going. But there's need for capital finance in order for us to put money into content development. It's a huge industry. Film industry is huge, music industry is huge. We just need investors now to go into those industries and put money into it. So private partners should come in, government should come in, we should develop PPPs, actors should come in, and you know the whole industry should come together of artists to be able to develop our content industry.
All right. I have to ask you this,
Yes,
just to make it clear.
Yes.
You know, in terms of content creation, we've been accused as a national broadcaster by various content creators that, you know what, we have all this content for the national broadcaster. But I don't know, they seemingly face some challenges when they give the ZBC their content in terms of maybe payment and things like that.
These are legacy issues, Yvonne. These are issues we came in and they were there. That was because of the funding structure of ZBC that was existing at the time, right? But now we've got proper models. We do have independent producers bringing content. We are paying for some of that content, and it's known. But we also in partnership deals with content producers where producers come and we share advertising airtime. Again, that's a model that we use, but then we also purchase some content. So it just depends. And some content is donated.
All right.
Yeah. So we also have some donated content that comes again from independent producers. So we've got a whole a variety of models on how we actually get this content and in terms of content acquisitions, and we do have a content acquisition policy that we talk to and so forth. But I think for us, we have had meetings with independent producers. We had a meeting in Bulawayo, we had a meeting in Harare, we had a workshop with them at the film school. But I think, you know, ZBC as an organization cannot do this alone. It's a bigger conversation to try and stimulate content development. I know the Culture Fund are trying their best, but again, it's not a lot of money. Yeah.
All right. I know we talked about, you know, the political space earlier on, and I want to go back to that. Looking at the 2023 general elections that we recently had as a country, your assessment as a national broadcaster, how do you think you did?
Our role in the election was just coverage of the elections, and so far I think we did extremely well. And if I were to rate it, but you know I'll be self-rating, of course, self-assessing. I would think we covered pretty well. I would give it about 80%.
80%.
Yes,
And the 20%?
Coverage. The 20% is always for the other things that we had no control of. And, everything can't be perfect. It can't be 100%. I wish it could. But we had obviously some few challenges here and there. But I think in terms of coverage, I would give ourselves a good 80%.
In 80%.
Yes,
All right. So do you think maybe you could have done better if you had resources?
I think we did have resources. We did have resources, Yvonne. I mean, given this election compared to all the other elections we've had, we had better resources, and that's the truth. Our teams that covered the elections actually did say that we resourced the activity quite well as the national broadcaster. So the conversation to say there were no resources, ZBC did not resource ZBC does not have infinite resources, clearly. But where we have got a national agenda, we're going to put our resources into that exercise, and we did pretty well. Even the stakeholders were happy.
All right. So maybe can we get into the challenges that you faced? Can we really get into them so that for future purposes?
The challenges that we face and not faced. The challenges
we may
that
be
we
talking in
face.
terms of the elections.
Okay, in terms of the elections, there were a lot of challenges. For example, accessibility to certain places, logistics. Some places were inaccessible. We were the ones that were assisting the ZEC with provincial announcements.
Yeah.
We did all the provincial announcements, and sometimes even like when we wanted to get to certain places, they were inaccessible. Not because we didn't have vehicles, but it's just accessing the place. But we did eventually get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little bit later, but we got there. And then there are other things to say. Maybe if we had a little bit of more financing, then we could have done maybe 100% better.
Okay.
But we didn't, and we did what we could. But as a team, we really did all our best to do that. Everything else had to stop.
Everything else
had to stop. Yeah.
So you think maybe after 5 years, when we have elections, we'll be better placed?
I think so. I think we'll be better resourced. As you know, we were also working to upgrade our studios and things like that. So I think, given the 5-year plan, by the end of the 5 years, we would have finished all these critical equipment upgrades. We need, new OB vans. In fact, not new, additional OB vans, because we are having to cover multiple events at one time. We've kind of, we now have 3, but we need much more. And we now need, obviously, to move to newer equipment, TV in a bag, radio in a bag. We've done that. We've purchased a few. We are in the process of buying a few more, but that's not enough. We need, I think ZBC, to a large extent, just need capitalization.
But let me just ask you this, maybe on a personal note. How are you feeling during the election period? Because there are a lot of, there were a lot of ideas being thrown around. This is the election period. This is the time that she's going to be judged. Can she stand? Can she do it? How are you feeling with all that going on?
No, well, I survive. I'm a survivor.
As the Iron Lady.
Not as the Iron Lady. People were talking to the liberation struggle, me being born in the liberation struggle. I think that helps, to be honest, with resilience. A lot of people, when I took this job, asked, why would she do that? You're leaving this to that. Why would you do that? But I felt that, Yvonne, you said it's a personal question, so I'll answer it from a personal point of view. I felt that, I've been at ZBC. This is not my first time here. I'm sure you know that I was a production assistant in current affairs that many years ago. And I felt that when I saw the advert and I answered to it, I felt that I was the right person to do this because I had the right credentials. I have the right background. I'm patriotic. All those things. I'm also very professional. I've had good training, funded by the government of Zimbabwe, by the way. And I felt that this is the only way that I can give back to my country. Even if, and I always said, even if they were not going to pay me a single cent, I was still going to do it. Yeah.
So can you talk to maybe fellow women or the girl child out there? There are a lot of people whose confidence is dented. People especially women who feel they cannot stand in the corporate world. Sometimes you're qualified, you have the papers, but you see a job advert and you're like, I don't think I can do this. What are your words to such people, especially females?
I'll tell you one thing about myself and how I applied to the ZBC job. I saw the advert, it was in the Sunday Mail. I pulled it out, I put it in the desk. There was absolutely nothing wrong with my current work situation. I was actually happy. But something kept probing me. Say, Adelaide, you need to apply for this job. You need to apply for this job. And my conscience just kept, Adelaide, you need, and perhaps it was that young Adelaide when she started at 22, you know, saying, you know, but you could make a change at ZBC. You know this place and all these skills, this training you've had all these years, right? This is the time. And I made that decision. I didn't doubt. And when I told my boss I was going to do it, he was actually shocked. He said, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm sure. So people should just go for their dreams. If you have that gut feel, go for it, regardless of what. Go and fail in the interview. Yeah.
So just give it your
best shot. Give it. If you have a dream, go for it. Everyone is created for a purpose. That's what I totally believe.
Everyone is created for a purpose.
Absolutely.
The words of Adelaide Chikunguru, the Chief Executive Officer of the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, joining us today on Inside Out to shed light into what is exactly happening at the National Broadcast. And I'm sure you're all waiting for one issue, which is the sexual harassment issue. I mean, we've had these cases on social media. What is really happening at the National Broadcaster in terms of sexual harassment, particularly the issues that we have had or the people have had?
If it's going to be a long drawn answer,
Okay.
you know, because it's a difficult conversation, as you understand. Now, the media industry, traditionally and culturally, always has these sexual harassment issues globally. You know, CNN had the same issues recently. You know, Fox News had the very same issues. And so I'm not sure what it is in the media industry, whether it's the hours that we work and or whether there are certain pressures, you know, because social behavior is mapped and or developed by certain things, the environment, isn't it? So I'm not really sure what happens, whether there are certain stresses that force those behaviors within the media environment or not, I don't know. But what I can say that at ZBC, yes, we received reports, but unfortunately there are not as many as the social media put them out to be. We only received 2 reports.
But is it a matter of them being many or a matter of them being the?
Well, I doubt that there's any organization that has never had a sexual harassment conversation. I think would be lying.
But I don't think we should quantify them.
Yeah, I don't think most organizations can stand and say we've never in our lives experienced a sexual harassment case or a conversation, even though it might not have been reported. It could have been there, but never reported. So it takes a lot of courage for people to come forward with sexual harassment cases. And it also takes a lot of evidence because you're going to have to prove a sexual harassment case. And those are in most times difficult to prove. So you'll find that victims don't end up reporting, right? They might tell their friends, they might tell relatives, but they might find it difficult to actually come forward and prove it. You know, so yes, we've had, it's true, we've had those cases, just 2. Why I'm talking to quantities, because we had a spin on that, Yvonne, as you know. We had people who were being accused of sexually harassing and being suspended in the social media space, and there were no such reports for those people. You know, and we've had to issue out a press statement to that. Yeah.
And you're a female CEO.
Absolutely.
And one thing, again, that you've been accused of is keeping quiet, according to social media, when it came to sexual harassment issues.
It's not true.
Well, articles say you declined to give a comment.
Of course.
And now these organizations were coming at you and saying she's female. How come she doesn't want to speak on such issues?
Of course. I will speak at the right time. Messaging is always about timing.
It's always about timing.
It's always about timing and consistency. So I will not be forced to speak by external pressures. I will speak at the right time. So this is the right time, and I'm speaking about it because we've carried our investigations. We know now that we have 2 formal reports. We have taken disciplinary action against those people that have that are accused of having done such things. We do have a concrete sexual harassment policy which is in place. And we've done training. We've done gender awareness trainings with the Gender Commission and other partners. So we've had a lot of support, especially from our partners, and we've done a lot. So I don't answer to pressure and external force and external pressures. No, we talk at the right time.
We talk at the right time. Messaging is about timing. She says she's not pressured by social media or anybody to speak, but she speaks when she deems necessary. And this is the right time that she's seen it fit to talk about the sexual harassment allegations at the national broadcaster. Now, you say there is a sexual harassment policy in place. Can you just take us through it just a bit for the benefit of...
Our policy is, it just mainly talks to how these cases should be held, how they should be reported. If there's a report of sexual harassment, what are the steps that are taken, the counseling that is given to victims, and so forth and so on. So it's a procedure really on how the sexual harassment should happen, should be handled rather in the work environment. Yeah.
So do you have this counseling desk?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. We have a safety health, we've got a health department that handles with these things. And if any we do have a SHES department, and if any employee needs such counseling services, they approach the SHES and they assist them to get the counseling that is required.
Okay. And now, because this is the time that you've decided to talk about it through this program and the statement that you've released as an organization, what would you want to say to maybe some people, both male and female, who have gone through such cases of facing sexual harassment in the workplace? What would you want to tell them?
It's very hard to be victimized because it's a human rights abuse. You are abused in an environment where the workspace is supposed to, your organization is supposed to protect you. You're actually exposed. And a lot of people find it becomes very difficult, Yvonne, for you to execute your capabilities to the highest level that you can, because you're worried, you're emotionally traumatized, you cannot apply yourself, and so forth and so on. So I would like to call upon people that have had this experience to come forward. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And it's not a topic that's taboo, because it seems as if it's a topic that shouldn't be talked about, and it's taboo. And the worst thing is there's continued victimization of the victims. And so forth and so on. Who does she think she is? And so forth and so on. And it takes a lot of courage for somebody to actually come out and speak out. It also takes a lot of courage for somebody to withstand harassment of any nature, whether it's sexual or otherwise. Harassment of any nature, it takes a lot of boldness and a lot of courage for people to be able to stand against harassment.
All right.
Yeah. And I've been harassed myself.
I was about to say that. You read my mind.
I have been harassed
I actually
myself.
wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
can we say that is a form of sexual harassment, where you came into power and she was like, no, because she's female.
No.
She's probably slept with so and so.
No. Yeah. I was harassed myself, but the harassment is maybe not sexual, but it's just ongoing harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you there? Ivapo, no, Auntie there.
You're here to stay.
Andive. You have to prove kuti andisikugona.
For
Prove
me
it.
to
Prove kuti andisikugona.
And can we also talk to those men? In fact, before I get into that, let's talk about sexual relationships or romantic relationships in the workplace. Are they allowed? Can I date Justin Mahlahla? Can I date maybe a fellow producer
Our policy,
or whatever?
Unfortunately, our policy does not allow for relationships in the workspace.
So now let's talk about people who then maybe I was dating a certain guy or a certain man,
Consensual.
consensually. And then now I feel like, this relationship is no longer serving me in the way that I thought it was supposed to be serving me.
Absolutely.
And I turn that into a sexual harassment case.
Right, it's manipulation. Yeah, but people can manipulate. Men can be manipulated, just like women can be manipulated. So we also look when we investigate. That's why I say that it's difficult for me to comment because of external pressure. We comment after investigations. So those investigations also, we've got a policy and it shows us how to do it. We've got the Gender Commission and other partners who also help us to make these assessments, right? And where we feel we are inadequate, we can bounce off with Gender Commission, you know. So we make these assessments, and the good thing about it is the investigations are done, and then we've always had, you know, good outcomes. So we've never had a situation where things were not done. I know that there'll be fear to say, okay, maybe this person, maybe these people are manipulating a situation, and maybe they are lying, you know, to serve a certain interest. Right? But the truth always comes out.
All right.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk about another issue, the issue of dressing. These are issues that people generally talk about in the workspace, on social media. Our workspace is supposed to have particular dress codes, because we've had men complain to say, look, the way you are dressing is a sort of a harassment to us. You're harassing us because you're exposing yourselves. And then some people say, no, but I'm supposed to dress the way that I'm supposed to dress and how best I feel I'm expressing myself. So our workplace is supposed to have dress codes, or people should just dress however they feel like.
I will talk to our industry. We work in a media industry and creative industry. People dress the way they want in a creative environment. I can't start telling DJ Popsy how to dress, or DJ Ashines, or even yourself. I can't tell you how to dress because we are in a content. You've got an image to portray, and it goes with the character that you're portraying.
Exactly.
So I can't start to tell my creative teams how to dress because they are creative. They dress according to the character, right, that they are portraying. If I'm Arno in the evening when I'm at home, but I'm DJ Popsy during the day, I'm going to dress like DJ Popsy because I've got a fan base and all these people, and play the character. But Pandinoenda Kumba and Sisiri Kanyemba Bones, I'm now Baba Tino. You understand?
All right.
So in our industry, I just don't. In fact, world over, the way somebody dressed does not mean that they should be raped. The way somebody dresses, an 8-year-old, an 8 months old with a pamper.
So men cannot
you cannot
say
use that
the way
as
you're
an
dressing
excuse.
is a form of sexual harassment.
No, you cannot. It's not defined. Dressing is not defined as sexual harassment. I've never seen a code that looks at dressing as harassment ever, world over.
We just needed to really clarify on that. Now, as we draw towards the end, 2024 is knocking. What should stakeholders expect in terms of the ZBC, TV, radio stations? What should they expect?
There's a lot. There's a lot. Better content.
Okay.
Definitely better, much improved content. We're working with partners to bring much improved content. Another channel.
Okay.
So we're going to launch another channel. We have I don't wanna. But we're expanding our services to satellite. We are doing digital, direct to home. We have OTT services that we want to offer and whatnot. So it's going to be exciting.
It's going to be exciting.
It's going to be exciting, definitely.
All right. Adelaide, I must thank you for having joined us on Inside Out.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thank you
it's
for
always
having
a pleasure
me.
having you.
I'll
on
come
the show.
back in
Please
3 years.
Do. Not 3 years. Come back next month. We should make this a monthly thing.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And thank you for having joined us on Inside Out. Today on the show, we had Adelaide Chikunguru, the CEO of the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, talking to us about her organization, what is happening at ZBC, performance issues, sexual harassment issues, and everything that has to do with the national broadcaster and its public mandate. Until we meet again, hopefully next week, pleasant viewing.